Okay. Um, so both Mark and I have both started a video here, and I don't know that either of us can see or hear each other because I invited him and he invited me and I was on his and he was saying that he couldn't hear me. Let's see. Let's try this here. Okay. How about now, Mark? Can you hear me now? Oh man, this is I guess let's see here. We're going to figure this out. I am super okay. Can you see me, Mark? Yeah. So, okay, bring you on camera. So, I think you have to hit the button that says bring me on or come join mine, and then you'd be good. Okay, I think Mark's coming right now. Okay. But why can't we get him logged on here? This is bizarre. Okay, so it's letting me bring other people on camera, but I look at Mark Glesney and it doesn't give me that option for you. Okay, bring them on camera. Let's go. Well,
Dang.
so far it's a smashing success, I'd say.
Yeah, I had 10 people on the other video and we kicked
I
them off
know.
or something like that.
Well, and I kept trying to write you. So then the only I don't know. I was confused. So can they come over and watch this here?
I think so. I think it'll show up on my profile probably
Oh,
that
good.
I'm there. Yeah, and I
Okay,
told
good.
people to just go to my profile and switch. So I shut that other video off. So
Okay.
hopefully
All
people are
right.
joining this one. Yeah, see there's Heidi, so we're gonna start getting we'll get
Okay, sweet.
the transfer.
Okay, well, I'm bummed. I don't know how to get it to work for Instagram, and I think the main issue was my computer was I don't know. I didn't. I guess when I thought I was going to do it on the computer, apparently the settings were not correct to allow the
Oh
camera to
yeah.
work. So, and then I was trying to mess with that, and but anyway, this will work. And you said there's a way to record this, and then we'll put it on Instagram later.
Yeah, we should be able to download the video and then just import it into Instagram. So yeah, dude. I mean, I do social media for a living, but I do live for other people. This is the first time I've been live. So I've been doing social media my entire career, but it's usually never on me.
This is my
So
first time doing it too. I've done some Zoom meetings, stuff like that, but I don't know. It's pretty
people had no
cool.
idea. I mean, they figured we were just professionals by the way we kicked the whole thing off. So,
No doubt. No doubt. All right. Well, very cool. Let's get this going here. So,
Yeah,
I'll do a little intro for you, for the people who know me and not you, and maybe you can do a little intro for me, and then
yeah.
we'll see what's going here.
Let's
So
roll.
I'm Nate Fuller, and I got Mark Glesney. Mark and I went to high school. He originally from California, and you moved in what, fifth, sixth grade to Fridley?
I think it was like, well, it was weird because I grew up like near Chicago, but then moved to California for two
Okay.
years, and then went to Fridley like eighth grade year it was, and then yeah, back to California for college, and then now I'm in Tennessee, so
Yeah, yeah, and
bouncing around.
he's in the military, served a couple of terms of duty for sure. Um, he's got a family, wife, and
I
how
do.
many
I got
boys?
three,
Three
three,
boys.
two boys and a baby girl.
Yep, sounds
Yeah.
familiar. Oh, 3 boys and a baby girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Woo, you're busy.
So we're
You're
gearing
busy.
up for the
Um,
goon squad.
yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and he's just. I think we both caught each other's eyes with some of our posts.
Yeah.
In a shared interest in fitness and things like that. So he's had a few comments on my post, and I've had a few comments on his. So this just started
Yeah.
as an idea, and he's like, "Hey, we should do a Facebook Live," and I'm like, "Sweet, sounds fun."
Yeah. Well,
So,
you're already lying. You said we should do a Facebook Live, and I agreed to it. So
oh
I
wait,
think you, yeah.
I was the one who suggested it.
I think so. Yeah. I don't think I suggested it. So
That
that's all
makes
right.
no, okay, because you were like, "We should chat sometime." That's what you said,
Maybe I was. I'll go
and
back
then
through
I
the
was like, "Oh
thread.
yeah, we should do a Facebook. Why not make a video? Bring it to
Yeah.
everybody."
Seriously, there's Heidi, Jenny. What's going on? Yeah, we got people from all over. Jenny's down in Florida. Heidi's in California. Scott's California. So we got a little national crew here. So
Yeah, super fun.
fun. Well, yeah.
Cool.
So for those of you that know Nate, obviously he's the funny guy. Met Nate. It must have been in 8th or 9th grade. After I moved to Minnesota, and yeah, just kind of ran in some of the same circles at times. Saw each other all through high school. And you're working out of school, right? Teaching
Yep.
and coaching.
Yes. So I've been
And golf is
coaching.
is your deal.
Yeah. So I did. I've coached baseball, golf, basketball, soccer, and hockey.
Holy
But
smokes.
only at the high school level, I coached hockey for 11 years. Varsity hockey. Well, kind of a long time. And then now I still have golf. So that's
Okay.
that's basically, um, yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Cool. Well, Elwood wants to know if you're going to do a song about nutrition. So we'll see. They have to stick around to see if it's going to happen. So.
I'm definitely doing a song about nutrition.
So maybe if I can start, I'd be curious too, because you came on to the scene pretty fast and furious, with nutrition, and so I'm curious, just kind of what changed for you, because you went kind of 0 to 60, which I love seeing. I love when people get on fire for stuff, and I think people, if they stick around, they're going to be surprised that we actually agree on a lot of stuff too. So maybe some people
Well,
are here looking for a boxing match, but
no.
it'll be a bit more cordial than that. But we'll have some different maybe takes on things, but I think people will be surprised at how well we can get along these days, even in a nutritional sense. So anyway, just what's up, Tony? What's up, another high schooler? What's
Top
up,
of my
man?
head.
Fridley. So
Okay.
anyway, so
My wife
tell
looked
me a
at me
little
and
bit.
said, my head is missing. Asher has come in.
And we both have boys named Asher, by the way.
That's right.
My second boy is Asher.
I
So
saw that. Yeah. So I apologize
so
if
yeah.
my wife said my head's cut off, but it looks good on my phone. So hopefully other people. I
We
do
can
have
see
a
your
full
eyes now. Yeah.
head. So anyway, yeah. So yeah, very interesting, and I totally agree that we're going to have a lot of common ground. Um, a lot, I think. And Mark's a very fitness conscious person. My background in coaching has led me so, but kind of how I got started because, you know, so the take here is I'm a plant-based vegan. Mark is not. And what happened? Why would I ever even want to switch? Because I used to love grilling. I used to love grilling steaks. Used to love eating chicken wings and pizza and all that stuff. And Mark's probably sitting there going, "Yeah, that's not necessarily super healthy food, right?" And he's
We're
probably
gonna
right.
talk about false positives later. Don't worry about it.
So, but anyway, it started 2 years ago. So 37 years, I was just kind of like most people with my diet. And then I went out to summer camp about 2 years ago, and I ended up getting really sick. And so I got sick to the point where, like, I couldn't. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out how to hold my camera without like moving it. So
Yeah, I'm cheating. I'm using my DoorDash little mount here that I have in my car. I pulled that and stuck it on my table. There you go.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, my head's huge though, but that's okay. Um, so I got really sick, like to the point where I couldn't really do anything. And
Hmm.
I was at camp out in the middle of New Hampshire on an island, and I was in my cabin, and I had fever, chills, I don't know if I was puking, coughing, dizzy spells, all this stuff. Like it was all just like terrible, and I couldn't do anything for like 5 days. So 2 days were basically just sleep, and then all I could do was watch like Netflix. And at some point I was like, you know what, forget this. I'm gonna watch like health documentaries because I don't want to get sick again. So I started watching them, and I watched a number, and like time after time they kept saying like plant-based is the way to go, and that's certainly not what I wanted to hear. I didn't want to like go that route. Like I was literally hoping they're gonna be like, hey, if you buy this brand of bacon and you go like find the cow yourself and all these other things, that's the healthy way to go. But a lot of them started saying, you know, plant-based is the way to go, which totally like kind of like jolted my world really. And then I started looking at some other environmental aspects of it, of animal agriculture, and how like it's kind of like a lot of stuff that I had no idea about, how difficult it is on the environment, just in terms of the amount of water it takes, the amount of land it takes up, and all this sort of thing. It's not a super efficient system. And I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. And then I did finally get into the ethical part of it, where, you know, just how animals are raised. And that wasn't new to me because like everybody says like factory farming, and we all know that like factory farming, like, nobody's like, yeah, that's great. You know, like there's not really people out there saying that.
No one watches those videos. Is like, this is going great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like, yeah, I support this.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to try 30 days. And my wife was on board. I called her. She's back home in Minnesota. And I called her. I'm like, hey, you want to try this? And she was excited because she was actually the one, like probably 10 years ago. This is how well I listen. I think she was suggesting this about 10 years ago. Okay.
Right.
And so she was like super on board. And we just tried it for 30 days and felt better. And obviously, I mean, the sickness it's a separate thing. But the health benefits that I got right away were, you know, I definitely dropped some weight, which as a 37-year-old with 3 kids, and, you know, I definitely had some weight to lose. My blood pressure went down. My cholesterol went down. Well, to be fair, I can't say that. I did a home cholesterol test to send in so I could do a pre and post. But like I got the results, and the results were I didn't prick my finger enough, so there wasn't enough blood, so I didn't have a clue. But I can tell you my cholesterol is good. I have done it since, and it's been very good. And then also like a big thing for me, as I had developed some heartburn, some pretty nasty heartburn, probably in my mid-30s. I was starting to get, like I did a lot of research on it too. I think actually it was like acid reflux GERD, I believe is the right term. And once I went plant-based, that just pretty much went away.
Gotcha.
And I had thought it was coffee. I thought it was sugar. I thought it was alcohol, all these things. And I cut out animal products, and it was like almost eradicate. And it was to the point where I was like, I would say probably 4 to 5 nights a week where it was hard to sleep because it's boring, but acid gets up into the esophagus and that hurts. So 30 days was up, and just talked about it with my wife, and then we're like, hey, do you want to keep going? And she was like, yeah, let's keep doing this. So I decided to do the same thing. Like we both agreed. And so since then, I like how you said I was aggressive on the scene, because I feel like for like a year and a half, I like, it's going to sound bad, but I felt like I was like a closet plant-based vegan. I wasn't really, like advertising, you know, because I mean, there's a certain perception. And so now that I have kind of like come out, and people are like, really? And they kind of like look at me like, oh, that's kind of weird, but you know, you're an interesting person. So now I just want to promote it. It's like it's good, and you can be healthy, because I never would have thought that. I never would have thought you could be healthy, and the food is excellent. I mean, the amount of variety that I've had for the past few years is so much more than I ever did, because you just get stuck with kind of like those same meals, you know?
Yeah, your posts are incredible. Like it's far
Yeah.
sexier than what I'm eating any given night. Like when I'm making, my chicken and my wife does way better. But like if I'm left to myself on cooking,
Oh, for sure.
it looks pretty bad.
Yeah. And I used to make nachos all the time. Now I do it with cashew cheese. I made that the other day. But like, I mean, eating, I've realized, is so cultural, is so habitual, and is so convenient, right?
Hmm.
Like we like
Hmm.
to think that we're very like sophisticated with our flavors and everything, but really, like I realized that I was eating like 10 dishes a month, and just put them on a repeat. Like there wasn't a whole lot of
Right.
variety in what I was actually eating,
Right.
which wasn't necessarily the best diet to begin with. And that's why we'll probably have a lot of common ground, because once we, kind of get to what's actually good and what's not good, there's probably a lot that I was eating that wasn't good, and that a lot of people
Yeah.
that are eating currently is not good. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm coming at. So how about you?
Yeah.
Where's
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, I got into basically, and my mount is even starting to fall here, but I got into nutrition through fitness, and so, in high school, I was a three-sport athlete. I did, track, soccer, and wrestling. In college, I did track freshman year, and then I switched to rugby. And then after that, joined the military and have always just kind of been in the weight room and then that sort of stuff. And so fitness has kind of always been a part of my life. But I began to understand and hear that fitness is a very small percentage of your results when it comes to body composition, weight, and aesthetic and all those sort of things. And so I started to just take on personal study. So like I started personally studying and working on my own stuff before I ever started coaching, and so people ask me, oh, are you certified? Did you study this in college? And I said, no, thankfully you don't have to study this stuff in college to know about things anymore. It's the information age. I mean, I'm a marketing director by trade. I do not even have a degree in marketing. It's in communications. I'm self-taught in that. I learned through experience. And so I started a fitness boot camp at a university and started fielding questions day in and day out from students. And if I didn't have the answer, I'd go research them and find them. And so it's been about, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 years of self-study on nutrition. And the surprising thing is that a lot of people, because, when I pipe off on social media, they think I'm against certain things. And I'm not against things as much as I'm for what I consider to be actual nutrition. And so this might kind of foray into kind of where I am on the whole thing, because I don't consider myself really under any label, right? And so there's a lot of label diets. And I'm a marketing director, but I think marketing has done nutrition a massive disservice. And so, when you talk about keto and paleo, and I would even argue plant-based and vegetarian and vegan, these are all essentially marketing terms that are more skewed toward ideology than biology. So when people say, well, then what do? I say I subscribe to macronutrition, right? So what this is a framework that allows for all the labels and all the stuff, but it brings it down to the nutrient level, because I believe if you're not talking about nutrients, you're ultimately talking about marketing, not nutrition, right? And so if someone comes to me and says, I'm a vegetarian, okay, that's fine. But what I want to talk to you about is nutrients. If I'm a vegan, okay, that's fine. I want to talk to you about nutrients. I want to talk to you about, there's only 3 macronutrients in the entire world. This is undisputed. No one argues it. There's carbs, protein, and fat. That's it. Every other nutrient on the planet is micro. Your body does not need it in large supply. So when we bring the conversation down to that, now the question becomes, what's your goal? And what is the macro implications to achieve that goal? So if someone comes to me and just says, I don't want to eat meat because I'm vegetarian. Okay, that's fine. But I'm going to come back down to macronutrients, carbs, protein, and fat, and where are you going to get those? And that's where we've had some back and forth on social. So, so anyway, that's all to say. That's my bias is macronutrition.
And can I just interject and say, like, I love where you're coming from and just being like, hey, macronutrients. Let's just put this in a big, and all the rest you can figure it out. Like you're saying, if you're vegetarian, if you're vegan, great. How do you get your macros? And I totally agree with that. And I think for me, the big thing was almost a complete non-understanding that it was possible to get all the macronutrients you need on
Yeah.
a plant-based diet. And you asked me earlier, I thought it was a really good question. Like, do you consider yourself plant-based or vegan?
Right.
And I said, my answer was, well, I'm kind of both. um,
And not
because
perfect at either. Like,
no, I'm not.
yeah.
I'm
And
pretty
none of
good.
us are perfect at anything.
Right. But so for me, and this is like way like level like 9 or 10 on the like the nerdness of like diets. So I see plant-based as a diet. I see vegan as a lifestyle. Uh,
Ah, fascinating.
yeah, and that's
I
because
agree with that.
yeah, and you would
Yeah.
totally be one who would say you can be very unhealthy on a vegan diet, and I would
Right.
100% agree.
Yeah.
There's no doubt because you can eat potato chips, Oreos. And now everybody's gonna be like, I'm gonna check out veganism because you can eat potato
Right.
chips and Oreos, right? And
Are
you
you
can eat
serious?
like, I mean,
Yeah.
I was beyond burgers and stuff like that. Well, I really don't think you should be eating that in huge quantities because it is highly processed,
Yeah.
and processed foods are not, highly recommended for sure.
Right. Right.
So I like that you say that. So like when I say, I'm plant-based, it's like, okay, how am I going to get my macros under the plant-based label?
Yeah. Yeah. And it is possible. So where we start to maybe diverge in how we implement this is that I've worked with vegans, I've worked with vegetarians, and it starts to get, again, I'm always goals oriented, right? So if someone comes to me and says, I want, in general, well, things moving. In general, people want to um, lose fat and or weight, right?
Yeah,
Those are not the
yeah,
same thing,
yeah.
and
And
maintain or gain muscle, right?
right, right.
Which is smart because it's actually, your body, your muscles take more energy to operate. And so if you want to consume more fat and kill more fat, it's good to have healthy muscles. So what happens, where I see the struggle come in is that a lot of folks will come and say, hey, I'm vegetarian, I'm vegan, and I want to hit my macros. And they understand macros and they're in on
Mhm.
that. They're okay. But what I've seen, because I map it out meal by meal, snack by snack, and we're running to a daily calorie, right? Because you have to be in a caloric deficit to lose weight. It's just
Correct,
physiologically
correct.
impossible to gain weight in a caloric deficit. And so what I've found though is, and this is where like maybe even offline, I'll send you my worksheet because I'd love to see you map out kind of your macros in a plant-based environment. What I see it hard to do is to hit your macros while staying under your daily calories.
Mm,
So what that
sure.
tends to be is that because when you start to get into some of the, I don't exactly know how to pronounce it. It's like tempeh.
Yeah,
Is it
tempeh.
called
Yeah,
tempeh?
yeah.
Yeah, tempeh. So like that that food is like crazy protein to
Yeah,
calorie ratio,
correct.
right? And so people will start like gnawing on that stuff and going to quinoa and soy and edamame, and they're like, actually those are pretty good proteins by ratio. But a lot of
Correct.
times what happens is that their calories start stacking up so fast because they're trying to get protein and they're
Mhm.
trying to get the right food that then they blow through their daily calorie intake. So that's what I've seen is the balance. And I've always said there's two sides to the body equation, which is quantity and quality of calories. That's it. So if you want to lose weight, it's about quantity, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're cutting fat. If you want to you want to recomp your body, you want to change the composition, now we have to talk about not only calorie deficit, but also the quality of the calories.
Mhm.
So it's like any diet, any lifestyle can cause you to lose weight. Not every lifestyle and not every macro profile allows you to lose fat.
Correct.
So that's where I see a lot of issues. So I'm curious your take on
Yeah.
hitting, like what your daily calories look like, how you account for macros, and how you kind of work through that. Because that's where I see the scales tip for me when I
Yeah.
work with folks.
Okay. So understand that I've lost almost 30 pounds since I went plant-based. And I am definitely stronger than I was when I was beginning. And I attribute that to when I'm actually lifting. When I'm lifting, I'm getting stronger. When I'm not, I am, losing, or I'm not losing strength, but I'm not getting any stronger, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I was able to, up at camp, like actually, because I had access to a weight room and I had time, I was able to significantly increase the amount of weight I was doing on squats and bench press and any normal lat pulls, whatever you want to say. And I
Mm,
thought that is just because I was getting in the weight room and doing that, and I was losing weight because, like as you said, I was probably at a caloric deficit,
mm-hmm.
and the calories I was getting was a much better quality calorie.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So we're cutting out a lot of processed foods. We're getting rid of, obviously protein is the big one that people want to talk about because you, well, I mean, meat doesn't have carbs, right?
Yeah, virtually none. Yeah, yeah,
Like literally none,
yeah,
except for fried chicken because that has all the
yeah.
fried.
When you wrap it and do other stuff
Right,
to it, yeah,
exactly. So
yeah.
so
But
you're
meat
getting
in and of itself is muscle. It's carbless. Yep.
right. So you are really changing how you're doing that. Now, as far why was I able to lose a lot of weight while gaining muscle? Because A, I was able to get enough protein because I was doing lentils and beans, which there is a difference, but I'm not super great on what the difference is, but there is a difference.
Yeah.
I did do some soy and some tofu, which before I did this, I was like tofu. I was like, no, not for me.
Right.
Then you start realizing tofu is a lot like a lot of meats where it takes on the flavor of what you cook it in. So like chicken, for example, right? Chicken, if you didn't season chicken, it doesn't really taste that good. And
No,
there
it's
are
terrible.
eat that,
And
but
I eat a lot of chicken.
it's seasoned and it tastes good, right? So tofu is the same way.
I don't know if it's just me, but your audio is kind of like cutting out a little bit. Something change? You like went like real distant.
Uh-oh. Okay, how about now? Is it better?
It just like changed. It went from like almost like, I don't know, it's like you went from a microphone to like a far distant tunnel.
Shoot, let's try this here. How about that? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can kind of hear you. I see someone else saying mic issue.
It does say mic issue. Shoot.
I mean, I can still hear you. It's just kind of like echoey.
That's strange. How about now? Is it any different here?
I mean, I can hear you. I think we could probably just keep going. Keep going.
Okay.
What's up, Laura? Miss drive around the U.S. in a camper these days?
Right. So, okay. How about now? People are commenting here. Can we hear me?
Yeah. I think your headset unplugged, they said. Is right by having the same opinion I had at the beginning of this debate as I do at the end of the conversation.
I don't
There
understand
you
what
are.
that means.
Yep, there you
No.
go.
Like for better?
Yeah, you're good again.
Wow, it's
What's up,
amazing
Laura?
how many people are watching this. This is so
Yeah, you know,
great. This is so
we're
cool.
farting around.
Oh yeah, cheese and chocolate. Okay, so I got to get to a couple questions here that I saw.
Yeah.
First of all, Greg Cordy was considering like what about protein, so I think we're there now. We're having that conversation. Nathan James wanted to know what was the hardest thing to give up. Without a doubt, it's basically pizza. And when I say like I'm plant-based and vegan, but not perfect at either, if my boys get a pizza, because we still buy them pizza occasionally, like all of a sudden, like everybody's like, where did a piece of pizza go? And I'm like, I don't know, but okay.
Confessions, man. That's good stuff.
Because, like, and I've made some good plant-based pizzas, but it's just something there, where it's just like hard. There's a lot going on. I've gotten better.
Yeah.
And some people like there was a lady who was like, well, that's because your body needs it. I'm like, I don't think you're being logical by saying my body needs pizza. Like, I mean,
Yeah. No, I don't know if any nutritionist or registered dietitian would agree with you on
no.
that.
and I kind of liken it to like if you give up smoking, right?
Yeah.
You might occasionally still have a cigarette, and that's the way I compare it. Okay,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
at least explain it in my head. So now my wife keeps showing me that my head is okay.
Yeah.
So,
You're good now.
first time ever. And
Yeah.
then look here. So Nathan James, that's what you want to know. Favorite, the hardest thing to give up, and then Taylor Reese asked, "Isn't it expensive?" And that is a really good question. Yes and no, right? If you are doing, and Beyond Burgers are great. Don't get me wrong. Or any other brand, there's like 7 or 8 brands right now, and they're all like different, and they taste really good. Compared to ground beef, it is more expensive. And do
Yeah.
you know why that is though? Do you have like, I mean, well, never mind. I won't even ask that. Our beef and like dairy and chicken, all that industry is very heavily subsidized. So those prices are like way more affordable. Right now, the demand isn't there for those plant-based burgers and stuff like that
Right.
to make prices comparable. So in a sense, yes, it is more expensive, but don't buy that stuff every day. Like, don't do it. It's too expensive to do that. Like right now, tonight, I think our boys had some Annie's vegan mac and cheese. Well, vegan mac and cheese, do your kids get mac and cheese ever? Like Kraft?
Not really. I don't think
Okay.
that my kids are super picky, except for my daughter. She'll eat anything. But yeah, we haven't
Okay.
done that. I don't think we've done that recently.
So, but like, I mean, it's like I buy it when it's 2 for $4.
Right.
Two
Right.
packages for $4. Well, compared to regular mac and cheese, that's somewhat pricey, you know.
Right.
So don't do it every day. But if you want to buy, and like some vegetables are, yeah, but you can do rice, beans, and like just throw in some onions, tomatoes, like I did for my today's lunch post. I don't know if you saw that, but just do that, and there's your plant-based meal, and it's plenty nutritious, and
Yeah.
it is not expensive.
Right. Yeah, that's a good call.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, I get that regardless. I mean, because people are like, what are you comparing it to? Like, you know, the dollar menu at McDonald's? Yeah, I mean, even just anything outside of that is going to be, quote, expensive. So people come to me, even if they're not contained with, you know, or being restricted by plant-based or vegetarian, and they just think that eating healthy is going to be more expensive. Of course, I would always say that the return on your investment,
It's an
if it is
investment,
more,
right?
is going to
It's an
be
investment.
massively, because you take a look at the debt incurred based off medical bills. You take
Yeah.
a look at the fact that obesity is
Oh,
on the
crazy.
rise. I mean, no one talks about the fact that the number one cause of death in America is not
Heart
AIDS,
attacks.
it's not cancer,
Nope.
it's not
Nope.
even coronavirus, it's heart
No.
disease.
Heart
And
disease.
so I'll take my chances with a little extra, but eating healthy in general, whether it's macro or plant-based or paleo or paleo, I keep saying paleo, paleo or any of these other, you know, systems, it
Yeah.
can be done well, you know,
Right.
but
Right.
and when you take a look at, you know, like I'm kind of on a financial binge right now, doing a lot of financial research. You take a look at what people spend on food anyways and eating out, and it's a false narrative to say like I just don't have the money to eat healthy when people are spending $400, $600, $800 a month at restaurants, you know.
Correct. Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, so
I'm
there
sorry,
you
my
go.
wife's in here now trying to fix my camera.
This
When
is
I
why
look at this
these.
right now, it looks like I'm wearing a mask from the mouth down.
No,
So like,
you're good. You're good.
okay, that's
Yeah,
what it needs to look like then.
yeah.
So
Full
no,
screen
you're
face right
100%
now.
right. So like, heart disease is the number one killer, and it's not even close, right?
Nope,
And you're
nope.
100% right when you say like it's a return on investment. Like we have, and I hate to like rail against the food industry, but the average diet in America is unbelievably terrible, and
Oh yeah,
we have been sold on this diet and told like this that, and again, you can do a very poor nutritional diet on a vegan diet as well.
yep,
And so I think it is, yeah, you want to buy good quality stuff, but you know, when you're at the grocery store and you got $5, you can get 2 bags of potato chips, or you can buy, you know, 1 carton of salad.
right,
You know,
yep,
a lot of Americans are going to go, yeah, and that's, you know, it's all that, and you'd probably be very hesitant or against added salt, added sugar, added fat. All that stuff has no basis in any diet, regardless of, you know, what you're subscribing to, but it's very tasty.
yeah,
And
yeah.
when you
And
bought like,
even on the plant-based side, I mean, there's a reason that like the Whole Foods CEO came out and said, I can't endorse this Beyond Meat anymore because it is so crazy processed. Like it's arguably more processed than beef, right? So,
oh
but I
no, I
think
think
that's gonna, I think
it
it's gonna
is.
start to even out though. Like I think the plant-based products are gonna get exponentially better
Yeah.
as demand increases. It will
Well,
bring down cost, right? Which is cool. So I'm down for all of that. Again, I stick to the macronutrition, and so I'm okay with everything as long as people are hitting the right numbers with the right food, you know.
right. And what's interesting is, so yesterday, so I saw a post online with now a new plant-based, or new to me at least, it was a new plant-based burger ripping on Impossible
Impossible, yeah.
plant-based, because they're like, look how processed this one is.
Yeah,
Ours is
good for
less
them.
processed. So you're 100% right when you're
Yeah,
like, it is moving in that direction where,
yeah,
and
it will.
it's crazy because what I found out too is meat is so much texture, and it's not as much flavor, because flavor all comes from seasoning, it comes from vegetables, it comes from fruits, stuff like
Yeah.
that. But the texture, and they're like the textures, there's been several times at restaurants where I'm like, is this actually the plant-based one?
Right.
And they're like, no, it is. I'm like, all right, because for a second there, I wasn't sure.
Fascinating.
So I'm going to answer, well, I mean, I want to answer Adam Dahl real quickly, and then I'll let you ask a question, and Nilo ask something there too. Hunting fit into plant-based animals grown naturally. Well, I mean, hunting is not plant-based, obviously. I think from my perspective, we're kind of on like a spectrum. So, um, plant-based diet I feel is healthier than most other diets. However, you can be very healthy with other diets, in my opinion. Um, and then it gets to more of the environmental and the ethical side. And so I would say, to answer Adam's question, I think what he's getting at is I would actually say that hunting is more ethical than the animal agriculture system that we have. And sometimes people like to say, and that's not a perfect answer. Probably nobody's happy with that answer, but I do see it as more ethical. Some people would say, like, what about like free range, grass fed, cage free, all that stuff? That to me comes back to your term of marketing. Like, I don't buy that. Like, hunting is at least the animal has lived a life, that it, and animals do hunt other animals in nature. I am aware. Okay. But the so it is more ethical, but the grass fed and there's just way too much to there where it doesn't really hold any weight for me. And then,
So
but
I got to
go for it.
Go ahead. Keep going.
Well, I would just say why I wouldn't go into some hunting is just it comes back to we don't need it, and that is again the biggest thing that I learned is like you don't need the animal products to be able to live and survive and thrive. And actually, I mean, in that, so like I read a bunch of books on this too, audiobooks. I do audiobooks. Reading is difficult. And it was like, what was the book? Shoot, it escapes my mind right now. How Not to Die. And obviously you're going to die. But that one like broke down so many studies because I was very skeptical going into this. Like very like, I don't buy this. And anybody watching this, you should be totally skeptical. And do your own research. And but they broke down like studies of all the blue zones and the longest lives people in the world and stuff like that. And they just like it overwhelmingly was saying like you don't actually need this stuff to survive. And actually, you are more likely to live longer without heart disease, cancer, diabetes, if you avoid it. So yeah.
Interesting. So I'm curious on the ethical side of things too, because that's a fun one. And I've done some stupid little Instagram posts when I'm outdoor dashing about like the theology of food, right? And so I've been talking a little bit about. I've never done a formal study on it. I've been a teaching pastor at a church for years and years and years, but never did a food study. But was kind of poking around with some of the theology behind it. So I'm curious your take. I'm curious your opinion on the moral side of it, right? Because we're talking about the ethical side, and I come from a biblical Christianity standpoint, so I get that if you're Hindu, different parameters, totally get it, it's totally fine. But curious your take on the moral side. So is it wrong? Is it morally wrong to eat meat regardless, or is it morally wrong to eat meat in America because of the systematic agriculture so is it a universal truth or is it a contextual truth in terms of the ethics for you?
That's such a good question. Like, I don't mean to like try to compliment your question, but I really do think that the perception, right, of like people who are plant-based or vegan is like they don't eat meat and they hate everybody who does, right? And
it's like you said, the vegan lifestyle angle is something different than plant-based nutrition.
Correct. So like the vegan angle is like, oh, we're like angry people, and
you look like, mad. You just always look mad.
So, I mean, I'd be the biggest hypocrite ever if that's the stance that I took, right?
Right.
And so, I think here's the simplest way of putting it. And like, this was all stuff that happened years ago that I never really thought about until after the fact. So like 7 years ago, an older, I don't want to call him older, but a retired teacher.
Older than you.
And I stayed at his house for like a week or something like that because we were in transition. And I said, I really want to thank you. and I'd like to take you out. Let's get some chicken wings and let's have a good time. He said, thank you. That's really nice of you, but no thanks. I said, come on, let's go. I love wings. And he said, well, I don't do that. And I said, oh, what do you mean? Because at the time, like, I mean, chicken wings were like probably
Yeah.
3 nights a week, and I'm not exaggerating. And he just said, look, if I just realized if I don't need to harm an animal, I'm not going to. If I don't need to harm another living creature, I'm not going to. So I don't know if that totally answers your question. I get where you're coming at with the systematic part of it.
Yeah.
And I certainly think, like, if people want to say, like, what if you were on a deserted island and there was only, like, your dog to eat, would you eat it? I probably would. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
But if I can avoid it, I'm going to. And that
Okay.
comes back to, some people say it's a little bit morally flexible. Again, same thing. I call it like imperfection. Like, I'm not a perfect person. Sometimes I have a piece of pizza.
Yeah.
And then I move on with my life. I'm not going to feel like bad about it, but I'm not going out of my way to buy something that has that in it with the knowledge that I could buy something else.
Yeah.
That's your
question. That makes sense. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because, again, looking at, kind of the biblical prescription, one of the things I noted that it was interesting that in the garden in Genesis 1 and 2, before sin entered the world, I would argue the Bible doesn't explicitly say,
Correct.
but through understanding that there was no death, there was no decay, there was no killing in the garden before perfection, I'm the first to admit that Adam and Eve were likely, and God said that you can eat of any tree of the garden. So there was eating. So it's not even like, eating was born out of sin because suddenly we're dying and we need to eat or we're going to die faster. There was eating in the garden before there was sin. So I take that to mean that, food is one of the ways by which we experience fellowship with God, right? Yeah. It's one of the ways in perfection that God said, this is one of the ways you get to experience me. And then there's big implications for why they chose to eat. But suffice it to say, they did choose to eat. I would say that that's the first time that people chose food as God or over God or replaced God with food. And we've been dealing with this ever since. Now we have a fractured relationship with food. But it's interesting because then I think you posed the question on Instagram, like, but isn't that an argument for vegetarianism then, that in perfection,
Sure,
they were vegetarians?
It's something to
and so
aspire to.
Yeah. And then I do believe that we will be vegetarians, quote unquote, again in heaven until the final feast. And then there will be no more hunger, it says. So we'll never need to eat or drink again. The difference is, however, now we live in a post-sin world. And it's not that eating meat is born out of sin or that it is sin from my biblical perspective, or for the biblical perspective, but it's that there is decay and death, and therefore our muscles do break down. And meat is allowed. Again, I don't prescribe to, I'm not a carnivore. You must eat meat to exist. I know nutrition enough to know that that's not the case, right? So again, I don't come at it from telling someone they have to eat meat. That's not my posture. My posture is, how are you getting your macros as they relate to your goals? So we kind of danced around that a little bit. But so on the moral side of things, I don't think there's any moral case from a biblical Christian standpoint that eating meat is wrong. Now, what I certainly am empathetic to is, look at this factory farming. I don't like that. I love animals, right? Like, I've done articles in middle school and high school on like abuse of animals and all that sort of stuff. But I don't draw the moral line on that. I may not like the factory and want change there, but that doesn't mean that I then step over the line and say, either personally or corporately, we shouldn't eat meat, or it's wrong to eat meat. Because, to be honest, by extension, you'd have to do the same thing with automobile, manufacturers. You'd have to say, okay, look at the emissions, look at the factories, look at the carbon footprint, look at the evil, vile people that run these, that are cheating on their wives, the executives at car companies that are working long out. You could build the same argument and say, I'm never driving a car again. I can't.
Yeah.
So anyway, all that's to say, I don't think there's a moral case, though I think there's a situational ethics question, but not a biblical moral case to be made against eating meat.
No,
Jesus ate meat, and Jesus ate meat. So for me, if I'm gonna live a life that looks and drink wine, praise Jesus. And so I should have a beer right now. Thank goodness. Yeah, we need to talk about some fundamentalists that don't believe that either about the Bible. But so anyway, so for me, that moral line is not drawn at eating meat. Again, I'm not saying you have to eat meat. I'm not saying it's wrong to not eat meat. I'm just saying it's allowed. It's allowed from a biblical
Sure.
perspective. So
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so there's a kind of a lot with that. What I would say is, I don't think it, for me, it just comes down to, is it necessary? And for me, the answer is no. And scientifically, that, and I'm going to post some links to, people can look at studies. I mean, we don't have time to go over that. I mean, I
Yeah.
have no idea what time it is right now, but I feel like we've been talking for a while, and it's great. I'm
Well,
loving
it took
this.
us like an hour to get online.
It was 12 minutes, Mark. But I mean, it's the answer is no. It's not necessary. So then I'm going to choose to not participate in something that I don't think is necessary. And I 100% agree. You can say the same thing about cars and stuff like that. And we have to be reasonable. And like
Hmm.
some people are like, well, so like sometimes people will be like, well, I eat meat. Do you think I'm a bad person? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
just participating in a system that I don't think I need to participate in. And
Yeah.
you can, it's legal right now. And you said you love animals, and like, it's, should we be making laws for animal welfare? Probably, like farm animals I'm talking about here, to a certain
Mm.
extent. But realistically, I don't think the change happens through legislation. I think the change happens from people, and I know people probably be like, geez, another picture of what's Nate's eating tonight,
Mm.
and they might like roll their eyes, and I get that, but I'm just trying to show people like this is possible. And like,
Hmm.
my perception of somebody who is plant-based or vegan was like, they wanted to be angry at the world, and they wanted to be skinny and frail and all these things, and I'm just like, no, we are normal people. Well, I
Hmm.
mean, not normal, but as normal as I can be, right? and and it's like, you can still have good food because people want to eat good food. Like, nobody's like, oh yeah, I want to eat plain oatmeal for the rest of my life. Sounds great.
Yeah. Right.
And like, cause sometimes people are like, so what do you eat? Grass? I'm like, I don't think you understand what plants are. I mean, it's
Right.
not like grass is the only option. Have you
Right.
gone to the produce section at the grocery store? There's like literally hundreds of things there.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm coming at from there. I just don't think it's necessary for me. And I'm definitely like it would be anecdotal evidence and a case study of
Yeah.
myself. But I'm like, hey, look, I haven't died of protein deficiency or anything in
Yeah.
2 years. I'm like, it's going good. It's going good. So I
Yeah.
just want to spread it. If people are interested in it, go for it. And if not, that's okay too.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I saw Nilu pop a question.
Yeah,
I don't know if
let's
I
get
don't know if she's still here. She asked, "Why is he?" And she's a doctor, for crying out loud. So she's over here to just show off against the mere mortals. But yeah, she asked about processed foods, and I would say in general, there's obviously varying degrees of processed food, and you could
right.
start to argue right down to the ingredient. Well, this piece, can it be one processed ingredient? Is it two? Is it three? Is it 12? I would say in general, when we talk about processed food, it's food that is obviously been processed to include high amounts of sugar, salt, and or fat,
Mm-hmm.
and hydrogenated oils, which can and I'm not talking about and I'm not talking about like those in a good sense. Like some amount of salt is good. It helps
Oh,
retain, it helps
me
gain. And
neither.
so some amount of sugar is good, right? And so I would say she's generally curious because I haven't seen any study that convinced it causes cancer.
How
I
many
mean,
much studies are you
no one
looking
said
at?
anything about cancer. I haven't seen that either, to be honest. I mean, there was all these, the sweetener discussions, 10, 20 years ago about all the different artificial sweeteners and they're causing cancer, and all the studies were fake. So anyway, Neil, I would say just in general, I would say it's about the sugar, the salt, the fat, the hydrogenated oils that get stuffed into processed stuff. So you're not controlling your calories very well, and it's not high quality food, right? So we're not talking, they're slipping in complex carbohydrates from brown rice. That's not what a processed plant does. They're not slipping in good high value claims. No, but a lot of people, yeah, I mean, a lot of people make a lot of claims, so I'm not too
So
worried about a lot of
can I
people.
add on to
So,
that too?
yeah, yeah, do it.
You do take out, when you process things, it does take some of the naturally occurring nutrients out of it. Like, right, like white bread compared to whole wheat bread. Like, whole wheat bread is a healthier form of bread than white bread, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah, because we have taken out the nutrients, and it is more processed. So that's where I'd be at. And then also, I think to your point of like things causing cancer and not causing cancer, that was a question that Nilu had on there. I don't know if anything necessarily causes or doesn't cause cancer, and I know that
yeah,
might sound strange, but
If it did,
I
we would
think-
know. We would know. Like the news
Well,
media would tell us. Like it would be the story of the year if you could directly link
right.
something. I mean, the best we have is like smoking to lung cancer, but even that's not a one-to-one
But
correlation.
but
You
that's
know, so
right, exactly. It's
yeah.
not, and I think we all have a genetic predisposition to certain things, and so
Hold on. So
um,
Nilo said she thought white bread and whole wheat bread. No, white bread and whole wheat bread are pretty vastly different in terms of their nutrient value for the reasons that Nate has said. You know, things have been pulled out, they've been bleached, they've been processed to last longer. That's why, again,
right,
I just tell people put whole wheat out on your counter and white and just
and what,
watch what happens.
right,
If it's 100% whole grain, 100%, it will be molding fast because it has an organic component to it, and that's what mold needs to survive, is basically air and something natural, and I forget one other thing. But yeah, so white bread is generally a simple carbohydrate, which means it'll break down really fast and convert into sugar, whereas whole wheat, 100% whole wheat bread or a whole grain bread is still considered complex, and so it's a long strand. It takes your body a long time to work through it, and that has a ton of nutrient value on the carbohydrate side. So
boom,
yeah,
right there.
so
That's really well put. I think here we saw somebody, Kevin and Krista Ferguson, asking to speak about allergies. Somebody is allergic to dairy, and yeah, it's crazy. And I just read a book. What was it called? The Cheese Trap. when you start reading these things, you are like, wow. And cheese and dairy it's the most crazy food product that we have out there, and it makes me crack up when I see Sargento cheese in the grocery store. It says 100% natural cheese, and I'm like, no. Do you know how they make cheese? There is no cheese in nature. Okay, this is
right.
milk that was taken from a cow and left to sit there for like 6 months. Then they get all the water out of it and they harden the stuff that's left, and then they add casein, which is
Oh
part
man,
of the cow's stomach, the
you're
cheese.
making me hungry now, man.
Yeah, and then they cover it, and I'm just like, so to the question of what about food allergies, like dairy. There are so many people in the world that are allergic to dairy, lactose intolerant, and again, like people will look at you when you buy a carton of oat milk and they're like, why would you drink oat milk? And I'm like, why would you drink cow milk? Like,
Right.
I'm like, why would you? Just because we grew up that way. Like I grew up that way too, and I loved milk and I loved cheese and all those things. But it's like, well, we have something different now. Like I'm not still riding a donkey, right? I mean,
Right.
like ride a bicycle, ride a car. Like we've progressed and we've evolved. So why use? Well, this is what we've always done. Okay, great. Go milk the cow yourself, or soak a bunch of oats in some water and then squeeze that and be like, well, which would you prefer to do? So I think dairy is there's no chance. I think it's something like Asian and African people disproportionately are so lactose intolerant.
Mm.
The numbers are staggering to the point where they're like, we should never have been promoting this as a country. Like we should have never promoted something like dairy. That is bad. She also asked about gluten, and gluten is definitely in a lot of plant-based, like if you want to do meat substitutes, but they are right now creating a lot of gluten-free options as well. So I think, finding those food allergies, I think a lot of people will find that if you take stuff like dairy is also like what's the mucus forming, and a lot of people cut dairy out and be like, that was like, I still have occasional pieces of pizza or cheese or whatever, and I love it. But once I cut out milk and dairy and ice cream, it was a game changer, and like they'll feel a lot better. And to that point, I would also say the plant-based ice creams, for those of you who like ice cream, go try. Ben and Jerry's is doing it, and they're killing it. Dairy Queen has a new plant-based dilly bar, and it's made from coconut. And you're like,
Dang.
it's good. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Chris Trombley, that's a good take right there. Take a horse; they're faster than a donkey. I love it.
And I'll say this too. And Kevin, I hope you're going to CPE at the end of the month because I'll be speaking in Delaware. I would also say this, and I don't say it to rattle anyone or to make anyone mad, but technically, technically. And when I say that, I mean, according to the College of Allergy and Immunology, there's no such thing as a gluten allergy, right? So technically, if you go on their website, yeah, well, technically, if you go on their website, they literally say there is no such thing as a gluten allergy. What it's enveloped under is under a wheat allergy and or celiac disease. Those are two actual things. Gluten is contained within wheat, and I would argue that wheat over time has become not wheat, right? And a couple things on that. Plus, we don't eat seasonally anymore, right? Because we're America, we're rich, we can eat anything we want all the time. And so we can stuff our systems full of a lot of things that we used to eat more seasonally and in different, proportions. And so all that's to say, so all that's to say is that there technically isn't, and I've got an oldest sister who we used to banter on about this because I have a gluten allergy. I said, it's not a thing. I think you may have a wheat intolerance. She didn't have celiac. And so anyway, I just wanted to say that too, because that's one of those misnomers in nutrition that I get a lot. And so here's the thing though, if you remove gluten from your diet, of course you're removing wheat, but gluten is really just a double bonded protein. And so it's really, gluten isn't the enemy. That's one of my shticks with my fitness students is what America will tell you is an enemy and what's an actual enemy. And so we've done the fat-free phase of American culture. Fat in general is not the enemy. We've done the low carbohydrate craze. We're still doing that. That's Atkins. That's keto. Right? That's South Beach. Right. And everyone loses all this fat, this weight fat. It's all the same. It's all low carb stuff. So, and with gluten, you could even argue So anyway, all that's to say, be careful about tossing around, or getting enveloped into literature that eggs on the gluten allergy thing, because it's technically not a thing right now, but there is wheat and there is celiac. So you've got to address the wheat allergy or celiac disease. Gluten's ultimately not the root. So just something to think about.
But it's easy to see the GF on your product. You see the GF and
Yep. So just like back in the 90s, we saw fat-free on everything, even though it had 48 grams of sugar that would be very quickly turned into fat after you ate that ho-ho. Fat-free.
There you go. Cool. Yeah, I 100% agree. What other questions do you have for me?
That's a good one. We touched on kind of how you hit the macros and that understanding. We've touched on some of the ethical stuff. I'm trying to think. Those were kind of some of my big ones.
So Nilu, I'm sorry. You think?
Oh yeah.
Nilu just asked. Nilu she's got to have a lot of time on her hands because she's asking tons of questions. I love it.
I know. Doctors. What do they do for a living?
Man, it would be nice if I had students like Nilu in class. I'm like, does anybody have any questions? And they're all like, glazed over. So intermittent fasting, I love it. And I used to do it more for the weight loss benefit, and I do feel there is that there. Now it's just become a part of like what I do, and it's almost like sometimes on the weekends, my wife will make a breakfast. And then at like 1, she's like, what do you want for lunch? I'm like, how can you, like, I'm not saying she eats a ton. That's coming across wrong. She's probably watching, okay? But she's like, what should we have for lunch? I'm like, I don't want to eat again till like 8. Because like I just find that I need not as much food. Like, again, 3 times a day. Why do we do that? I don't know, because we that's what it is. I saw a guy who did a TED Talk today. He said the average person's eating 50 meals a week. And I'm like, who are you hanging out with? Like, how could you possibly eat that many?
Italians.
Oh boy, here we go. So I think I love intermittent fasting, and it just become like more of what I do. And I like kind of the, I don't want to say it's depriving myself or something, but kind of like stretching my limits and pushing myself to something that, again, years ago, I didn't think was possible. And I think what I found, I don't know, do you do that at all?
So my take on intermittent fasting is, if it aids in your ability to be consistent, game on. But ultimately, I eat 5 times a day minimum, sometimes 6. So I eat about every 2.5 to 3 hours, starting when I wake up until I go to bed. Yep. Depending on my goals, right? So I spread it out. So people come to me and say, so you're against intermittent fasting. If intermittent fasting allows you to be consistent, game on. But here's the raw reality. It is simply about quality and quantity of calories. So again, if the body is a beautifully simple and yet complicated thing at the same time. And so if you burn 2,500 calories a day, Okay, let's just say that's what you burn every day, and you eat 2,000 calories all in one sitting,
Yeah.
or over 5 sittings, you're in a 500 calorie deficit. You are going to slowly lose weight at probably about a pound a week at that rate. And so intermittent fasting, if it enables you, because some people, like if you're a construction worker, you get to the site early and you want to be done early. So maybe you got a long stretch or you're in a crane or something like that and you don't have time to eat. It's totally fine. Ultimately, it's about calories in versus calorie out. That's weight. And then the quality of the calories going in. And that's what relates to body composition. So that's really going back to that earlier note. So intermittent fasting is not offensive to me, but it tends to be. But here's what does offend me is that people, people adhere to these what they think are tricks, and they think that people are doing this, and it actually causes them to become worse because they do it for a certain amount of time and then they binge their way out of it. And so Nilu says, I'm doing it to try to get to get Sawyer baby weight off so far. And again, if it's working, I can tell you, Nilu, that timing ultimately doesn't have anything to do with it. It's really about calories in. Are you in a deficit? Are you in a maintenance? Or are you in a surplus? That's it. It's the only way the body loses, maintains, or gains weight is based on caloric quantity. How it's composed in terms of fat versus muscle has to do then with the quality and then the training that you put into it. So intermittent fasting is fine. My question to people though is, do you know your calories in? Do you know your calories out? It's like a budget. If you don't know your income and you don't know your expenses, you don't know anything about your finances. And so if you don't know what you're taking in and you don't know what you're burning out, and by the way, a lot of people will just simply go low carb or when they do some of these trick diets, and you're always going to get a lot of weight loss.
Yep.
And I said weight, I didn't say fat, because where it generally comes from is water, because 1 gram of carb maintains 2 to 3 grams of water. So if you pull carbs out, you're pulling all the carbs and the water. And then on top of that, you're also going to start losing your muscle mass as well. So that's where people get with these low carb diets. They get that 2, 3, 4 months of, yeah, but I'm losing weight. And I joke, I tell them, look, if your goal is only to lose weight, stop eating. Yeah. And they think I'm kidding. I'm like, but hold on. So again, 3 macronutrients, you removed an entire one and you're like, I lost weight. I'm like, well, no kidding. Right. And so why not remove a second one and maybe a third one for a month? Because that would be unhealthy. Now you want to talk about healthy weight loss. That's a conversation I'm willing to have. There you go. Because now we need to talk about what you do healthy in a healthy manner to lose weight or to lose fat. So I don't think anyone is overweight. I think weight is arbitrary. I think people are either over fat, they're in a fitness or an average state, or they're below fat. It's over fat versus under fat, or average fat or fitness fat, right? It's not about weight. Because if I told you, hey, I got a friend, Chris, who's 180 pounds, and I ask you, is that good or bad? Depends. You don't know. What if he's 6'3" with 8% body fat? That's good. What if he's 5'2", 48% body fat? What if Chris is a girl? Right? You don't know a lot of things. So weight is arbitrary. So when someone comes to me and says, I want to lose weight, I said, are you asking me to lose weight, or you actually want to lose fat? Those are 2 different things, and we have to have a more complicated conversation. So anyway, that's my spiel. That's right under my eat sign. So
yeah, right. Okay.
Chris is 190. Well, we'll cut it down there, fatty. No, I'm just kidding.
So. I'm gonna try to hammer out a couple more questions here.
Yeah, do it.
Kirsty asked about soy, and somehow there was the perception that soy is bad for you, or I had grown up learning, or I don't know, but just like soy would lead to the development of man boobs. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you go walk any mall, beach, or as long as it's open, wherever you go in the world, there are, like 50% of men over the age of like 25 have man boobs. You're telling me they're all eating soy? I don't think so.
No. They're looking, again, America's looking for a false enemy.
Yeah. And they're definitely, again, don't overdo it. There's no point in doing too much soy, but there's no idea that like soy, it does have phytoestrogen, but that's not the same as estrogen. There's no like increase in the estrogen hormone for humans when they have soy. Unless you want to add something to that, I'm going to just try to get a couple more.
I would say soy moderation, like most things. Soy is actually pretty
Yeah.
beautifully what I call a 1-to-1 ratio, which is it's for every carb there's a protein, and so it's actually kind of immaculately built in that regard. Very few
Right.
proteins are a carb or a 1-to-1 ratio, so it can be done well in moderation. There's some fringe science or some articles out there that will point to, but I'm generally okay with it. I don't do much soy.
No.
But I know a lot of folks do, and when I train vegetarians and vegans, a lot of times we end up doing a soy supplement, so it can be done.
And I've been experimenting. So my brother then asked also, like, what do we do to replace bacon or steak? Okay, check the internet. Um, it's just like the amount. Okay, so Mark, I've been doing this for 2 years, right? The amount of products, recipes, information has literally exploded. Like when I
Yeah, there's
first
no, yeah,
did this, it
yeah,
was like, okay. And I'm like, do you guys have any options? Usually I'd be like, I'll take some French fries and a side salad. Like that's what, if I was out at a restaurant, I mean, that's what I was doing. And I'm not the person who's like, well, what type of oil are you frying? Like, I'm not going to bother with that. Cause again, I'm just about reducing the amount of impact on suffering that I have on the world. That oil's there before me. It'll be there after me. I'm not going to sweat that stuff. But I mean, research. And I think something that, again, why I come back to, like, I post pictures is because I like to show that this stuff is good. Because sometimes people are like, oh, I tried soy once, it was terrible. I'm like, oh, you had
right,
somebody prepare it poorly for you.
yeah, the
I had
tofu, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, when I went to when I was at camp, right, and I did this. I'm in the middle of a boys camp, right? It's all males. This was not stereotypically, that's not a male thing to do, to be like, okay, I'm
right,
gonna go to a plant-based diet. And I told our chef, and he's like, all right, bet, I got you. And he was like, I think part of it, and Sean, I don't think he's watching this, but I invited him. It broke up the mundane monotony of what he was doing regularly, where
mm,
he got to show some more of his culinary skill, and he
sure,
had to research a little bit. But, like, I mean, it was kind of sad because everybody would be served, right? And first of all the college counselors who are athletes, where they go first when we were served? Salad bar. They were hitting up the salad bar in, like,
mm,
you know, two-fisted handfuls. They would eat all the other stuff too, but they went to that. And that was kind of was like, wow, that's crazy. They eat that much salad before I transitioned. But everybody would go through the line to get the buffet, and then here would come Sean with the plate that he made me. And,
mm.
like, I would start getting, like, when I first went plant-based, all these people were laughing at me, and then he would bring me these dishes, and they'd be like, that looks good, man. And that's, I'm like, hey, you want to try it? I'm more than willing to share. Like, enjoy
That's
this,
dope.
because you can find so many good things. And we made plenty of stuff that wasn't really very good, but I
Mm.
had meat-based and animal product stuff that wasn't very good either. And
Yeah,
what do you do with
exactly,
that? Not make it again.
right,
um,
yep,
Bacon, like, there are companies that are making bacon right now. There are recipes to make bacon at home. I think we got liked one the other week called Light Life. I'm real excited. There's a place in California that, they're like, this is the bacon to get. So I might try that. But you just got to keep, it's trial and error. Just keep checking, keep trying
yeah,
things.
cool.
Literally anything you want, you can figure it out.
Hmm.
Okay, and I'm gonna apologize to Adam Dahl, Taylor Reese with the man boob thing. I touched a nerve with you guys. Um, it's be you. It's okay. If you want the man boobs, it's okay, and I will try to stop checking you out. Okay, Adam. Okay, I don't know. Carrot bacon. There you go.
Oof.
Carrot bacon. I've never tried carrot bacon. Sounds
I
crazy.
get I get crap from carnivores just for eating turkey bacon. Like
No,
they think that's like blasphemous.
it is.
So,
I'm not gonna lie, Mark. If I went back today and just started eating the way I used to, I'd never have turkey bacon in my life. Is
oh, I
that
love turkey bacon with a little cracked
no,
pepper on
no.
it. Oh yeah. See, now we can't be friends.
Now,
Where's
there
Neela?
we
We're gonna
go.
start fighting. I think she wanted more fighting. We can fight over
That's what
turkey
you really
bacon.
wanted. So
It's
you're
meatier. It doesn't. I mean, pork bacon goes like this. Ends up like this, and it's just like, ugh, oh, it's awful. Turkey bacon, just big, thick. Come on, so much better.
that's hilarious. Sweet. Bears eat beets. Oh, funny. If there wasn't for
Bears
that dang
beats
soy coffee.
Battlestar Galactica.
Reese, try a new soy-based coffee, okay? I'm sorry the one you didn't like. Taylor and I went out and we watched the Patriots game, and I took him to a plant-based place, and he didn't like the coffee because it had, I think it was oat milk in it,
Thank
but
you, Michelle. Michelle's in my corner on turkey bacon. So
you and Michelle are crazy.
yeah,
Okay, let's touch on one other thing.
I love you,
Unless we have
Elliot.
more questions, or if you can think of anything that you have questions, would be supplementation, because that's always a big question, and you haven't really touched on that because I think you know enough about nutrition to be like, yeah, okay, if you can get your protein and you can hit your calorie goal, go for it, which is a very, forward thinking way of looking at diet. The old school is
Yeah.
like, no, you can't do that. Drink your raw egg. And so protein wasn't a thing. The only supplementation that I'm taking is a B12, a vitamin
That's
B12.
good.
And I
Yep.
actually and that's because I have researched this, and there's no doubt if you are going to a plant-based diet, you need that. Most people who are not plant-based are getting B12 in supplement form as well, because the animals are given supplements with B12 in it, from my understanding. So many more people who are eating animal products are not B12 deficient, although a lot of Americans still are B12 deficient. So if you're watching this, go buy some vitamin B12 tomorrow.
Yeah.
And maybe
Are you concerned? Are you concerned about any others? Because I do understand that one of the criticisms of vegan, I think it was the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition or something like that, talked about the often severe micronutrient, right? So they're not even talking about macro, which I
right.
appreciate. Micronutrient deficit in things like B12, D, calcium, omega-3 fatty acids, iron, zinc. And so, so it's really just the B12. I'm curious how you honed in on that one, as opposed to, because there's kind of a good list of possible deficiencies.
Yeah, Elwood is a great point. Nutritional yeast has B12. B12, what does it do for your body? It covers the neurons with the myelin sheath, and it makes your brain work better. I believe there are several bodily functions as well, but you do need it. I mean, you're not going to die without it. You're just not going to function as well. Um, that makes me think of functioning well. They're starting to look at Alzheimer's and animal products too, but that's we're probably going off in a different way there. Okay, there we go. Nilu, thank you. Nobody
That's
knows
what
what
I was
those
gonna.
words
That's what I
mean.
was gonna say, Nilu. So yeah, those are the terms I was gonna use.
So
Makes you
in
walk
terms of
funny. Woof, woof.
so, oh, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
it's neurological
Um,
stuff right there.
so with any type of micronutrient, right? As well as macronutrient, if you eat a balanced plant-based diet, like if you went to rice and beans exclusively, you're going to be deficient, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be plant-based, but you are going to be deficient in any number of things. So if you eat a varied diet, you are going to hit it. All those things like calcium, iron are not that hard to get. Legumes have a lot. Um, you talked about tempeh earlier. That does a lot for those things, but also things like broccoli. And okay, people are like, I don't like broccoli. I get it. I'm not a big broccoli fan either, but spinach has
Oh,
way more than you
yeah.
would think.
Y'all need to come down to the South, because some of the stuff these restaurants are doing with broccoli these days are
Oh, is it?
immaculate. Like,
Oh,
broccoli is a coveted appetizer the way people are doing it down here. Like, and my wife could probably tell you more. I just know that whenever we go to some new swanky hipster
they got,
place in
yeah,
Nashville and they
yeah,
have broccoli, or they've got what's the other one? Um,
cauliflower.
oh, cauliflower. Oh yeah, cauliflower like crazy.
Almost
Like, oh,
everywhere now.
cauliflower tacos. What's the other thing that they're normally pretty nasty? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts. My wife
I
just
love
yelled from the
Brussels
other room.
sprouts.
Oh, the things people are doing with Brussels sprouts these days, with like
Yeah,
baking them and seasoning them and oils. Oh, it's insane. Here's Greg. What up,
and
dude?
and they're
Fried
good.
broccoli. Fried
Um,
broccoli.
so
He's such a.
so Nilu asked, "What's wrong with taking a multivitamin pill every day?" Personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just don't
I
think
don't think
it's
there is either.
necessary. And people like to say, like, "Well, it's so hard, and you need to take all the supplements." No, you don't. And that's not just like average people like me. But I mean, I think one time you commented on a post about the Tennessee Titans and how like
Mhm.
12 of them were plant-based. And my point in like highlighting stuff like that is like, look, this is possible. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
if you want like to look at people who are chiseled, like look up the name Nimai Delgado. He's 100% plant-based his entire life. He's never tested. And he's like a vegan bodybuilder. Okay, there are
Yeah.
plenty of pro athletes doing it. I mean, you can do this stuff. You can use supplementation if you want to, but it's not necessary. And people are like,
Yeah.
it's so hard to do. Not really. If you just eat a varied diet, it's just hard because you have spent 15 years or 20 years or 40 years living a certain way, and now you have to think differently. But once you
Yeah.
go on that direction, it's so much easier than I ever would have thought possible.
Yeah. Was that Nilu that asked about the multivitamin, the multi
Yes.
V? Okay.
Yeah.
So Nilu, the other thing too is that, and I deal with this all the time, and I blame it on American culture, is we're always trying to fix macro problems with micro adjustments.
Yeah.
And so that's the best way I can put it. If you think of it as a funnel, as a refinement funnel, people are often coming and saying, well, I'm low in this, so I need a supplement. And they haven't fixed the big picture yet. And so if you fix the big picture, which is the macronutrients that, again, anyone can agree on, and then we may disagree on when we get into plans that, remove an entire macronutrient like keto or something like that. So now we're off the rails. We're not talking about nutrition anymore. We're talking about fad diets. But if we agree on macronutrients, however you get that quality macronutrient, those vitamins feed in through those macros. The issue is that Americans are always down here. They go get a blood result, and then they're like, I'm deficient in this, so they want to insert a supplement at the bottom of this without fixing the top issue. And so
Well,
if you come to me and I put you on a plan, my general guidance is 37, 33, 30. I put generally my nutrition clients 37% carbs, complex, 33% protein, 30% fat, and they're complex carbs, lean complete proteins, and unsaturated fats. Chances are your micro deficiencies are going to be fed and fixed from the top down, or from top down, but Americans are always trying to fix things from bottom up. And so I don't do any supplements right now. And I just had my first kidney stone, and I got blood work and all this stuff back. I was middle of everything. Yeah, I was like giving birth to a dragon. And
I
so
saw that
like
episode of Friends.
yeah, it was. Yeah, I got many a jiffy sent to me. So, but I got blood work and all my labs and my normals and all that sort of stuff. I'm on absolutely no supplements. I
Right.
do protein supplement at times, and I do a whey protein supplement to get me up to my protein. But I honestly haven't even been doing that recently, and so it does concern me that people again are always looking for that quick fix, that micro adjustment at the bottom of their nutrition plan, and they never go up to the top and fix the major issue. Right.
Right.
So
Well,
it all just breaks down from there.
it's almost like just medication for everything, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we have, how many millions of Americans are on diabetes medication or heart medication, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, oh, or you can start eating healthy. No, give me the pill. I'll keep eating my crap
Yeah.
and keep taking it. If pills,
Yeah.
I'm not against pills, but if you're taking a pill forever, there's something wrong
Probably.
with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's actually, so I told you earlier about my heartburn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this was months before I even transitioned to heart-based, but I did all this research because I couldn't sleep at night because I had heartburn. And so I'm looking this up, and like, well, first of all, everything said go plant-based, and I was like, no, that's not what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start buying turkey bacon or whatever it is, right? And what I mean by that is an easy solution. Okay, so that's what I wanted because I was
Yeah.
in that mold, right? But then I started looking it up. Like, have you ever had heartburn or taken any medication for it?
No.
Okay, so here's how it works. What if you take Tagamet or Prilosec or any of those, right, over the counter?
Yeah.
It reduces the amount of stomach acid because what's happening when you're getting this is your stomach. I'm pointing at my stomach. You can't see it, but is overflowing with acid, and just a little
Sure.
bit goes up in your esophagus, and it's terrible, right?
Mm.
And so what these products do is they reduce your stomach acid, therefore none goes up into your esophagus. Solves the
Not
problem.
what produces the stomach acid, right?
And that's the thing. Why do we have
Yeah.
stomach acid? Because we need it. So guess what your body actually does when you're taking these? it creates more stomach acid,
Right.
thus creating a loop that keeps you dependent on the medicine. And I'm like, that's shady. That's
Right.
like shady
I'm not sure
stuff.
whether I should be mad or buy stock. Like,
Well, I did both. I bought stock and I was mad.
yeah, so that's my answer a lot of times to those micro questions is just we have to fix the macro first, you know. So I think that's kind of where my stance on some of the multi-Vs. Multi-Vs are good, you know, but for the most part, it's nothing that you shouldn't, and they do make sense if your diet's terrible. So like your
Sure,
numbers
right.
can move, your
But
blood work, your lab work can move, but it's again, it's whether you want to go to the roots of the issue or you want to keep trimming the branches, you know.
right.
So
And I
yeah.
would say, and like you start looking into like, there's a lot of other medical conditions like ADHD that could be tied to diet. There's just so many things. Oh, proton pump inhibitor. Yes, that is. Yes, Greg has looked this up as well. Greg, you're doing Google searches for that stuff, and that's what it does. But there's so many problems that we have. Depression, mood
Mm-hmm.
disorders. Um, I'm not saying don't take a pill for it, but why would we go to that solution without trying A, B, C, and D? Diet, let's go with that right away. Change the diet. Then look at your activity level. Change that. And then if
Yep.
that stuff's not working, like, oh, yeah, I'm eating what the doctor said. And now we have something else. We need to do surgery. We need to do a pill, something like that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the podcasts and the books I talk about, I can't remember who it was. No, it's T. Colin Campbell. Yeah, or is it called? I don't know. It's one of like the first guys who came up. They wrote the book called The China Study. May want to like look at that sometime because that's where like the root of the knowledge of this all comes from. But he was saying like when he used to tell people, this is back in like the 70s, he was telling people change your diet, go plant based, and they were like, well, that's extreme. And he said, well, you have heart disease. To fix your heart disease, we're going to do triple bypass surgery, which is they cut open your leg, take a vein. Neelu, you can correct me, but you may have gone to bed, but this is my understanding. Take out your biggest like vein or artery and put that into your heart. And he says, I think that's extreme.
Mm.
And when you
Yeah.
think of things like that, like, oh yeah, I guess cutting me open to make sure I don't die is a little bit extreme, but we've become very accustomed to it.
Yeah. I think Greg asked an interesting question. He said, "Do you guys base most of your recommendations based on how people feel?" It's an interesting question. I would say that can be indicator of certain issues, but um, having studied this for 15 or so years, I know that the framework I have in place addresses even issues they don't want to address or that may be underlying issues. And so I've never seen a study, I've never seen anyone that says, whatever you do, don't consume complex carbohydrates in the right proportion. Whatever you do, don't have complete protein. Your body actually doesn't need complete protein. Even a vegan and a macro guy can agree our body
Yeah.
literally does need complete proteins. I'm not talking about it has to be meat or it can't, that sort of thing. And so anyway, to Greg's question, I start with the framework first. I start with the macronutrition framework. Well, actually, I start with water. Water is the foundation of everything. So even right down to your ability to absorb nutrients is based off your hydration level. And so the same meal will be absorbed differently by your body based on your hydration level. And so I start with water as my foundation. Then I start to build my house, which is the macros. Then you can get into some of those micro questions. Then we get into fitness. We get into movement. Someone earlier said food is medicine, and I agree. And so is movement.
Yes.
So food is medicine, movement is medicine. I'm not a new age, exactly, recovery. I'm all for modern medicine. It's a gift. It's what we call common grace to be experienced by all people. And so I'm all for that. But if we've seen anything is that America tends to be our own worst enemy, and our riches have brought us an ability to be so rich that we're awful at basics. We're awful because we have so much variety and so much open to us. I mean, there's a reason we're one of the most obese countries in the world, even though we have the largest fitness industry, right? People are trying to fix at the gym what they're doing at the table, and it doesn't work. So anyway, Greg, I don't know if that answered your question, but I don't necessarily base it off how people feel, though you can gather intelligence from how people are feeling. But if they feel like, they don't get enough sleep, and then I ask them and they say, I get at least 10 or 11 hours. I just don't feel like I get enough. I'm like, well, it's actually the fact that you're getting that much that makes you feel that way. So I wouldn't base my recommendation off their feeling they don't get enough sleep and say, well, then you might as well try 13 hours tonight. I would say what science has consistently told us time and time and time and time and time and time again is that you need probably 7 to 8 hours. And so I'm willing to bet on that being an issue, even though it's in contradiction to what you're feeling. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with most of what you just said there. I think you go with basically what the science is saying and what studies have said, and then you make adjustments. I liked your idea of saying hydration, macros, and then building. It's almost like we need like a brand new like food pyramid or something like that.
Oh,
That
by the way, that is
actually,
that's the original pyramid scheme, is the pyramid that we were taught in middle school, because that was come up by the Department of Agriculture or the USDA or something like that. It was basically a government. I mean, when's the last time you trusted the government to give you nutrition advice, right? And they built these categories that are like dairy is not a category. It's a label, right? Like
right?
wheat, grain is not. Again, if we're talking about nutrition, stop using labels and categories. Start talking about nutrients. There's 3 macronutrients. That's it, right? And those foods have those differently. And so the pyramid, the food pyramid, is what I joke is the ultimate pyramid scheme in American history, because we believe these categories of food and we just start dabbling in those, and everything just gets wonky from there, because we're not talking about nutrients. You have to talk about nutrients if you think you're having a nutrition conversation, and that pyramid is just awful. So oh, Greg said, wasn't my question. Oh, it was Greg Dunn, not you. Sorry,
Yeah,
it was a
Greg
different
Dunn,
Greg.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But and then Greg Dunn did say, but fast food is convenient, and 100% right, because food is all like tradition and convenience. It is. It's
Yeah.
amazing. So make sure your traditions are good and what you are making, because you don't want to spend 4 hours cooking every single day. So make sure you're making healthy meals that are quick. Emma asked, she said she's a very physically demanding job and she's having trouble keeping on weight. What would we recommend? Here's what I would say is
Keeping on weight or
correct.
keeping weight on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. and because she climbs trees all day. And so what I would say is look at calorie dense foods, because our stomachs can only hold so much. So it's not fair to tell people, like, because there are people who have trouble gaining weight, mostly not in America, but some
Mm-hmm.
do. And let's say just keep eating. Well, food, like your stomach expands, but can only expand so much, right? And actually, one of the things that we haven't talked about at all, which when you said your kidney stone, I thought potentially, did they ever talk about, like, have you ever looked up like fiber intake and how much fiber you're getting?
No, in fact, I'm waiting on some results from my doctor actually as we speak. So they did a lab on the whole thing.
Yeah, don't quote me, but I think fiber has something to do. I know kidney stone is too much calcium, I believe.
No, it is a calcium buildup, but it's not necessarily caused by calcium.
All
Yeah.
right. I got you. But I think fiber helps balance that out. So when you eat high fiber foods, okay, so this is, if Taylor Reese is still watching, he probably isn't, because who could be? But but like, I bet him once that he couldn't eat 7 Honeycrisp apples. Do they have those in Tennessee? Like the big, softball size apples?
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
yeah.
They're delicious.
Yeah,
right?
It's still America down here. We still get things, Nate. So we have fruit in the South, not just fried stuff.
so like, if you had like 7, it would be almost impossible to do, because there is so much water in apples, there's so much fiber, there's so much volume, that your stomach is going to be so big you would stop after 4, right? Whereas other things are much more fiber deficient, water deficient, and calorically dense. And so you can get a lot more calories, and it doesn't take as much room up in your stomach. So what I would say is, if you're having trouble keeping on weight, gaining weight, something like that, look at what is your calorie density. Because I got news for you. If you're eating like 70 stalks of celery a day, you are going to feel full. You are going to feel full, because your stomach is going to feel like you have had a lot, because volume-wise, that's a ton of celery, and you didn't get that many calories to counteract your activity. So you got to find a more calorically dense food. If you're going plant-based, you could use things like peanut butter. Again, I believe tofu is pretty calorically dense. Some of your other, like, wheat breads. Any of the plant-based proteins are going to be pretty calorically dense as well. But that's what I would say if you're trying to gain or keep on weight is look at, what you can eat that's more calorie dense.
And it was Taylor that I sorry I don't get the comments the same way you do. It was her name was Taylor. The
That was
name was
Emma.
Taylor. Emma. Oh, sorry. I don't know where it came out with Taylor. Yeah. So Emma, basically the same. You've got to take a look at your calorie intake. I mean, it's the matter of fact truth that your body cannot lose weight. I'm saying in a caloric surplus. So you
Correct.
need to establish: are you at a caloric surplus? Back to what Nate was saying. Are you using caloric dense foods? And for better for worse, things like red meat are incredibly high calorie. For some of my carbs, so carbs that I go to that are complex are, sweet potatoes. I do a lot of sweet
Sure.
potatoes. We do a lot of veggies. I do a lot of brown rice. Calorically dense food that is, I always forget how to pronounce this, satiety. It's a term. It makes you feel full, right? So you've got both feeling,
Yeah.
So anyway, all that's to say, Emma, it truly is about a caloric surplus. And I understand I've worked and it's funny because I've worked with a couple women that almost feel like ashamed to ask the question because if other women hear that they're having trouble,
Right.
other women freak out. So I get that. I understand that. And so it really is about your macros. It really is about both the quantity and the quality of those calories coming in. So you've got to find a way to take a look at what you're burning every day and make sure you're out eating that. And it sounds rudimentary, but it's just the basics of physiology.
There's just so much more we could go into. I mean, yep, you're right on there. I think also, so when we talk about our calorie, deficit or surplus, we have to keep in mind too that I don't know what your take is on this. I'm gonna guess we're gonna be similar here, but when it comes to weight gain or loss, it is much more about diet than it is about physical activity.
Oh, it's like 80 to 90% of your results come from nutrition.
Right.
Yeah.
But we exercise because now we're converting the cells in our body, the fat in our body into muscle because we want to lose weight but look better.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, in a vain sense, that's what we're doing. But we focus so much on the physical activity that it's unfair to tell people who are like well overweight, well, start running, because as you mentioned earlier, most of that weight loss is going to come from water weight. You're sweating all that water out. You're coming out. It's great. You're toning your muscles. You're getting stronger. But if you want to lose weight, you have to decrease your calories. If you want to increase weight, you have to increase your calories.
Hey, and Emma, let me give you a number real quick. I see you're still on. This is so general. Like if we were in the same state and you were a client, I would take you to go get tested. I would want to see your lean body mass, your body composition, your body fat percentage. That's the only way I could truly give you a calculation. But in general, in broad terms, if you're looking at maintenance calories, which is what does my body need to maintain my weight, it's generally going to be your body weight times 16 because you're active. If you're very active, your body weight times 16. And if you do that number in a calculator, it's probably going to scare you, especially as a girl. I've done more counseling with women than men, and numbers scare women because you all have been inundated with numbers your whole life. I know, it's true. But you've been we just whatever, just throw it on the plate, we'll eat it, and the kids. But yeah, so Emma, in general, take your body weight times 16 because you're very active. I'm willing to bet those are the calories you need just to maintain weight. Right? And it goes down one notch. So if you're moderately active, it's times 15. If you're not active, it's times 14. So when I'm doing programs with people and they want to cut fat, maintain muscle, they want to slim down, look more aesthetic, I tend to do their body weight times 12 because that puts them almost surely in a caloric deficit. But if you're talking about a maintenance, take your body weight times 16, that's your daily calories. Then you've got to go figure out how to out eat that if you're actually trying to gain weight. So if that calculation helps, it's probably your body weight times 16. Just to stay the same weight you're at, you've got to go above and beyond that to gain.
Sweet. I love this. This has been amazing. I think I'm getting the cue cards are telling me that we got to wrap it up because we got kids that need to get to bed here. And
I can't believe people stuck around for this. I thought it was going to be you and me and the people in the room.
I'm blown away that people watched. I'm blown away that they've been asking questions. I've loved your insight.
Same.
And like I said, like we both said at the beginning, there's a lot more common ground than there was, even though people wanted to see punches thrown. Um,
Yeah,
but I think
we can
still
fight next time.
we made it entertaining anyway, I believe.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
wrap this up. I'm going to go over with my final thoughts, and then I'll let you have the final thoughts, and then because I think this ended up being my Facebook feed, right?
I guess. Yeah, I'm gonna go back through my notes.
So,
yeah, I think it is yours.
Let me just try to wrap this up, and then you go ahead, and then we'll close it down. And then you said there's a way that we can actually post this on Instagram too.
Yeah, I should be able to download it and import it. Yeah.
Okay, something like that.
We'll figure that out. Oh, not this long. Sorry, Instagram doesn't have anything over 15 minutes. So.
Oh, okay.
Well, you could tease it on Instagram and point them here. We'll figure it out.
I will do that. Cool. So here's what I'm going to come away and say is, one, if you're interested in diet, ask questions, learn. I never would have thought that I was going to go the route that I'm currently in a million years until I realized it was possible. And once I realized that, so many things opened up that I never knew existed. And I think really comes back to the fact that we are largely, we learn from the food pyramid, or, basic, and I'm not faulting people who teach nutrition because they're given a curriculum, but that doesn't mean that it's actually correct. And anything you want is out there, and in a plant-based lifestyle, or a plant-based diet and a vegan lifestyle has really been one that I've enjoyed undertaking. If people aren't ready for that, don't worry. I wasn't ready. My wife suggested it 10 years ago. We read a book called The Kind Diet, and she was like, we should go, stop eating animal products. And I was like, how about we just do grass-fed beef? Because that made sense to me at the time. I mean, it doesn't anymore because I'm like, it's the same thing. But if I wasn't ready until I was on the brink of death, and then I started researching and learned all this stuff, and I just gave it a try. Find things that you like. You should not be unhappy with your diet at all. You should enjoy what you're eating. You should enjoy cooking it. You should enjoy eating it. So that's my final thought on tonight's conversation.
Nice. I would say, I'm a Bible guy too, and nutrition and fitness and all that sort of stuff. So I'll kind of wrap it all into one. I would say that the human body was designed with a trinity of nutrient values or nutrient needs. And that's the macronutrient that we were talking about, is those 3 macronutrients. With that as your framework, you're free to pursue any label, any diet, anything, so long as you understand the core needs of your body. And so that's why I tend to harp on fad diets and label diets, as I call them, because it's really just more about marketing. And again, as I confessed at the beginning of the video, I'm a marketing director by trade. But marketing has done a massive disservice to nutrition in this country. And so what I would say is like Nate said, do your research. Take a look at macronutrients, take a look at the reason why your body needs carbs, the reason why it needs protein, the reason why it needs fat, and then start to take a look at what are the best foods in those categories for me. If that leads you to plant-based, so be it. If that leads you to include animal products, so be it. But that's really the trinity that was built into your body. It's how your body was designed to function. And so with that, you're free to have a flexible diet. You're free to have foods. People think I'm crazy. They think, I sit at 15% body fat because I don't eat pizza, or I don't drink beer or anything like that. That's not true. I do it consistently, but I stay within my quantity and my quality of calories. I put the numbers on my side. And so all that's to say that there's just a lot of freedom in your diet. Like Nate said, I love that. You should not be unhappy. And I tend to even hesitate to use the word diet because I think that's defensive. It's on your heels. You're trying to avoid bad food. I always talk about it in terms of nutrition. Dieting is defensive. Nutrition is offensive. Nate, I think if we've done anything, we've shown you that we can be on very different paths, but both pursuing nutrition rather than avoiding food because of a diet. And that's what I would say is the biggest thing, is when you turn that switch in your head and you're no longer defensively avoiding food, going through life avoiding cake and pizza until you binge, But if you're pursuing good food and allowing for flexibility, then you're going to be happy. And again, as I said, food's one of the ways that we enjoy fellowship with God. It was intended that way in the garden. We get to it to a certain degree now. We'll see it again in heaven. And so all that said, just go on the offense with your nutrition, whatever path that leads you to. And then, it'll ultimately lead to more fulfilling life.
Beautiful. Hey, thanks.
Awesome, man. It's good seeing you.
I feel like it's been a long time, but I feel like we could just keep going. But
I know.
We got people that need to go to bed.
We'll let demand build up, and we'll do it again some other time. We'll let demand. I saw Shannon said let's do it again, and so we'll pick some topics or whatnot from people. If you're still watching, you can drop some topics in the comments that we should tap on next time, and we'll see. We'll build up some demand, and we'll do it again soon.
And no matter what, these are conversations. These are things that people haven't been thinking about necessarily.
Yeah.
And in progress, that's how progress happens. Is we start thinking, what can we change, or what else is out there? So awesome conversation. Sure, thank you so much for being willing to do it. We'll do it again in a week or so. I don't know, 2 months. I don't know, whenever. Okay.
I could talk all day. So
absolutely. Hey,
all right, man. Have a good night.
Take care.